Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning. Apologies for the last week, and I actually have to start with a slightly different apology as well. There'll be no squats today. I'm having a bit of a problem with my kidney, and it seems like a bad move overall, so I'll be drinking plenty of water and not doing any squats. So if you'd like to donate, please do feel free to do so, or save up for when we are doing squats again, which will be come Friday. Today's top story will be a surprise to no one. It will, of course, be about what's going on in Saudi Arabia at the moment, even though it's not really Saudi Arabia that's a focal point. We are, of course, talking about the ongoing issues in the Middle East. I won't be going into too much political detail because that's not my job here. I will, of course, be discussing wrestling. The WWE are planning a show in Saudi Arabia, Night of Champions, just under a week from now. And I know a lot of people are asking the question, will the show go on? That is our top story, and the answer, to keep it nice and simple, is yes. At the moment, it is all guns blazing, all plans continue, and full speed ahead for the wonderful world of Saudi Arabia. The WWE have explored their options. They have spoken to people within Saudi Arabia and within the government and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to essentially determine what their strategy is going to be. Their strategy is business as usual. In addition to receiving a number of assurances about what would happen in the event of an attack coming to Saudi Arabia, an issue which has been exacerbated by Iran's missile attack on the country of Qatar and a US base there, the WWE were assured in brief discussions that security would be absolutely impenetrable. Brief discussions took place around that security. WWE has been assured that even if an international strike were to occur, the overall military might of Saudi Arabia will dwarf anything thrown at it. Essentially, they've been told that no matter what happens, the missiles will not land anywhere near threatening positions, and Saudi's air defences are essentially indestructible. Now, that's obviously not the case, but it is spoken with a lot of confidence. There were also conversations that took place around the contract. Essentially, the Saudi Arabian government, the Mohammed bin Salman, the king, as it were, has assurances and contracts with the WWE that allow him to exercise certain rights, and it would mean a significant hit financially to the WWE if they do not perform. So they have been told by Saudi Arabia, you have to perform. It is contractually required of you. Now, don't get me wrong. If WWE felt that they and any of their wrestlers were in any danger, or in fact any of their staff were in any danger, they would pull the plug. There is no company in the world that would not risk the money in exchange for keeping the people safe. There are countries in the world. I shouldn't be ridiculous and saying there's no country in the world. That's a silly thing to say. But the WWE is not that country. The WWE is no longer run by Vince McMahon. Things have changed, and money is no longer the most important thing in the world for them. Now, I'm fully aware that there are a number of people representing the WWE already in Saudi Arabia. It is obviously a very tense scenario, and the WWE are monitoring the situation closely. They are said to have a plane ready just in case of emergency, much like the US has planes ready in case of emergency to pull out United States citizens. And I'm assured that TKO have spoken to the current administration about what their plans are. We have someone in the chat asking questions which are in no way related to anything I'm saying. So wherever you've got that from, I don't know, but maybe make sure you get the right information going forwards. So I'm going to catch up with the chat. We still have plenty to share. One last thing on Saudi Arabia, just a bit more of a fun one. There are some in the WWE locker room who still don't believe CM Punk will actually go to Saudi Arabia. Now, WWE are confident Triple H is locked in. CM Punk is making all the right noises, but there are many in WWE who just don't quite believe it. Just don't quite believe it. We have 77 people watching on YouTube. Only 20 likes so far if you're able to please leave that thumbs up. Let's catch up with the chat before we get to our additional news. Right, Liam, thank you for posting that. That confirms what I'm also myself reporting. Also mentions what is advertised for Raw tonight, Becky Lynch versus Bayley for the Intercontinental Championship. That seems fairly rushed, but I think I would suggest that we're heading towards a triple threat featuring Bayley, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. Cody Rhodes versus Jey Uso. Surely this is an opportunity for some good old-fashioned hijinks. Jade Cargill versus Roxanne Perez. My personal view is that Jade Cargill will be winning that one. Originally, it would have been due to something Liv Morgan related, and now I'm going to suggest it's going to be something Raquel Rodriguez related. Breaker versus Penta. Penta has been a bit up and down recently. He has picked up wins, he has picked up losses. I can't see Bron Breakker losing just now. And also mentions Goldberg. What did people think of Goldberg's return? I mean, at least he didn't concuss himself. Thank you very kindly for that gift, Ethan. I appreciate that. And Bob Johnson is watching throw up the day before and the match won't happen. I find that funny and very ironic. Cal says, is there any worry about their safety at the moment? Absolutely. There are many people concerned, and that includes the individuals who are already there. However, they've been given as many assurances as they are likely to get. Welcome, Irish. Good to see you. Thank you, Marcel, for all that chat, Ray. Declan, thank you as well, and hi to you. And Ross says, evening all. Welcome, Ross. Cal says, I really hope Roxanne is safe and well. Unfortunately, she's still being harassed on X. Yeah. Unfortunately, and I speak from experience, you reach a certain level, and it's not a big level, and people decide that you are essentially Satan. It's not a big level. Hello, Ole says, hello, Tom and everyone in the chat. How are you all doing? Doing okay. Bit of a kidney issue, but overall doing okay. Everton says, Liv Morgan injury evolution is being rewritten. We will be talking about that more soon. Cal says, really cool to see the Wyatts keep their masks too. Do you have any news on that, Tom? Why did they get to keep their masks? They have their masks, but they also don't wrestle in their masks, which is what I was reporting. It is optional, and we will be discussing the Wyatt Sicks shortly. Corey says, what if the airspace closes, though? If the airspace closes before the WWE is able to get people into Saudi Arabia, then the WWE will not be performing in Saudi Arabia because they won't be able to get there. There are a lot of people who will be traveling before SmackDown, so chances are that there would just be significant changes to the card, but the card would go ahead. Bailey says it's difficult for a show if the production team can't get there in time. Very true. However, production teams do go ahead of schedule, and the WWE do have multiple production teams. There are already people from that team in Saudi Arabia. Declan says, according to Becky Lynch at SummerSlam kickoff, she wants to be Becky 2 belts in the same arena that she won both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania 35 in the main event. Why wouldn't she? Why wouldn't she? I'd love to be Becky 2 belts too. Bob John says, I still don't get why Goldberg versus Gunther had to be for the World Heavyweight Championship. It didn't need it. That was the only way Goldberg was signed on to do the match. He basically harassed the WWE into paying him for a final match and then told them after the deal was struck, yeah, it needs to be for the title or I'm not doing it. Hector says, what are the odds that the one and possibly only time Punk goes to Saudi, there's a potential war in the Middle East that could affect the WWE and put talent at risk? He was right the whole time. Are you trying to suggest, Hector, that he started this? Jokes would be funnier if I was 100%. Bailey says, why don't they simply reschedule it a few months out? Once again, that would be a breach of contract, and Saudi Arabia have assured them that that is not what they are looking for. Andy says, can we assume that Seth will cash in on Bill? I'm assuming that Bill will not be winning. Sean, Friday wasn't about news. Friday was about the heat and not feeling too great. Entertainment says, any word on where Ludwig Kaiser is being creative hiatus? Cal says, CM Punk is not scheduled for Raw tonight per PWInsider. I could potentially see him having an injury. And by injury, I mean injury, if you get me. Do you reckon he's lost his smile? Personally, I do think he's going to do this. He's going to go through with it. The WWE would not be advertising him if they didn't have his word on this. And it's a very different world that we live in when it comes to the word of CM Punk meaning a lot more. It's just that there are some in WWE who don't believe it. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue, how are you doing today? Doing okay, mate, doing okay. Hope you're good. Drive-by says, hi Tom, any news on Roman's return? The news is still the same. He will be returning in the build to SummerSlam. Sean says, never know, Tom. Judgment Day could help Roxanne beat Jade. Yeah, we'll see on that. Eric says, if Liv's injury, who do you think faces Io at Evolution? I think Rhea. I think they're saving Stephanie versus Io for something way bigger. I don't think Io Sky will be defending the championship at Evolution. Also, Liv Morgan was not going to be a challenger in the first place. Kevin says, I saw a lot of reports from different people saying SmackDown is going back to 2 hours by July 4th. Is that the truth? I don't know. I've never had any information on this. But what I will say is I've seen reports from WrestleVotes from the Wrestling Observer giving us dates of when it was going to go back to 2 hours. And then it didn't. Hector says it also doesn't help the WWE or TKO. The TKO is currently $3 billion in debt due to the merger, so in a sad way they can't afford to skip this, as bad as this is. They would lose a lot more than that if they essentially breached the contract in place. What I will say, there is such a thing as positive debt, and when it comes to the overall net worth of TKO, $3 billion is not actually that big in the grand scheme of things. It's weird as it sounds, but much like a mortgage is positive debt, there is positive debt for companies as well. Sean says, via PWInsider, SmackDown is set to return to 2 hours on July 4th. Cal says, I think they owe Goldberg his last match. He deserves his last match. He saved the card for Vince a few years back. Only right he has a last match. What card was that, Cal? What card was that? Do you mean the one where he was already booked for it, but Braun Strowman came in at the last minute? Ross says, didn't like Goldberg in WCW. I just didn't get it, and I still don't now. Never been a fan. I don't really get it either, personally. Ole says, Goldberg was awful in his prime and is worse as he gets older. Not my opinion, that is the truth. Strong words. Boomers for Life says, don't care about Goldberg. Didn't back in the day. Neither. Probably be better as long as he puts Gunter over. Noob also has said, no one cares. Marcel says, what was your reaction to Cena's pipe bomb? Did you like it? I did, actually. I think he was really clever with that. Really clever. Some of the fans clearly didn't get it. It was a long time ago. But once I saw it was a match against R-Truth and there was going to be tables involved, I was convinced. It was simply too obvious an option to miss. Coot says, it's been a while since I've been able to watch live. How have you been? Also like and hit the subscribe button. Welcome, Coot. I'm doing pretty good. Mentally, at the very least, I'm in a fantastic place right now. So, yeah, life be good. LA says, I love Gunter, but I refuse to watch a Goldberg match, so I'll skip that one for sure. Yeah, I probably will as well. I'll watch Evolution. Sid said, I was really happy to see Goldberg return. I'm a big Goldberg fan. And Dylan says, I personally think they should move to the Performance Center just simply based on the fact that I would personally want to protect everybody working there over money. Cal says, it's been hella hot in the UK this past week. Declan says, if Becky Lynch does become Becky Two Belts, which titles do you see her winning? I don't see her becoming Becky Two Belts again. Alyssa says, who win King of the Kings? As regards King of the Ring, personally, I have been suggesting that Cody gets his rematch at SummerSlam, so I do think he's an automatic, easy option to win King of the Ring, and that does maintain his momentum. As regards the women's side, more on that shortly. It's good news, I think. Sean says, I thought Trish was supposed to be on SmackDown this week. What happened to Zelina calling out Julia on SmackDown this week? Well, as regards Trish, I've not reported that myself. I'm not sure who was. I believe it was WrestleVotes, and they were simply wrong. She wasn't there. Paul says Cedric Alexander has signed with TNA, and that's a good signing on both sides. Cal says they've been saying since March it's going back to 2 hours. They have indeed. Michael, thank you, says per Fightful Select. For those asking, talent that we've spoken to are no longer bonus for the Saudi shows. Those type of things are baked into their contracts now. Yeah, it is no longer an optional event in WWE. Entertainment says, do you know if Eddie Kingston will return in the near future? I don't, unfortunately. Cal says, was he booked when he faced Roman? He had COVID 2 weeks before. Sorry, Cal, what is it you're referring to there? Do you mean Goldberg? Because Goldberg was expected to face Roman. Alyssa says, Liv Morgan, early Royal Rumble win, comeback blessing in disguise. She was expected to become a women's champion over the next few months, so I would debate that. Gotcha, Declan. Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate that. Elimination Chamber 2022 against Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Don't think that's a card save. Liam says, per PWInsider, again, thank you for sourcing. Goldberg is set to appear on every episode of Raw leading up to his retirement match at Saturday Night Main Event, except for next week's episode in Pittsburgh, and I can't blame him. Have you seen what happened at Pittsburgh in The Last of Us? Sean says, per Body Slam, Ethan Page and Ricky Saints are names being pitched to join Seth's faction. Interesting, because that does immediately fly in the face of Fightful reporting that there's going to be no one else joining. I, of course, reported that there would be more bodies before they added Bronson Reed. Liam says, CM Punk names a WWE superstar he wants to face in a one-on-one match in the future. How are there 3 of them? Oh, okay. There's more than one. Gotcha. Sean can't see Ricky joining. The other Mike says, not going to let y'all rewrite history and say Goldberg was never cool or that guy. How old are y'all? I never watched WCW. I never experienced him being cool. I just didn't. Michael says, why is a Goldberg Gunter match a title match if it's Goldberg's last match? Because the WWE would surely love it if both of the championships left with their champions. Oh, yeah. Bailey says there's a number of YouTube subscribers plateaued of late. Do you gain anything from YouTube above 10,000 subscribers? No, I wouldn't gain anything there. The number did plateau. The reason being that a lot of people joined almost entirely because of the shorts. And at the moment, I'm not doing shorts, so many of them are leaving. And I can't blame them because I'm not planning on doing shorts more. So I honestly think they're probably making the right call. Daniel says, not wrestling related, but happy with Liverpool's transfer business, Tom? Oh, yeah. Could not be happier. Cal says, I'd like to see Ethan Page join Seth's faction. He'd be hilarious in that role and like that annoying sibling. For me, he'd be better off with a mic on his own. Calvin says, predictions for the semi-final matches, Jade and Cody. I agree with that. Thank you, Matthew Miller, for sharing the live on the TikTok side. I appreciate you. And thank you very much for hitting like so many times as well. I appreciate that too. Liam says, per Fightful, Stone Cold Steve Austin told several people backstage during WrestleMania week he might still have one match left in his career. Boomer says, I don't think they ever said this was Goldberg's last match. This is what's rumoured, of course. Eric says, any specific reason why Io hasn't been defending her title? Primarily because she was going to be going into a program with Bianca Belair immediately after WrestleMania, and that did not quite work out. Joey, that was literally my top story. Zip back to the beginning of the show and all the information's there for you. Welcome, mate. Aaron says, did you know Odyssey Jones attends every NXT match? Nope, never heard that. It says, hello, Tom Talkers. That's amazing. I like that. Keep that up, mate. Lovely. Christopher says, my predictions are Roxanne Perez wins with the help of Judgment Day and Cody Rhodes. I can't imagine Cody Rhodes helping Roxanne Perez. Declan says, who do you see dethroning Io? I see Becky. Not sure as of yet. I see other options popping up first. Cal says, also in January 2025, Tom Colohue reported on spoiler warning, Jade will be pushed big after Mania, and we've seen that. Hey guys, watch Tom Colohue. I do love that you're telling people who are watching Tom Colohue to watch Tom Colohue. I respect it. Joey says, do you expect a 6th match to be added to Night of Champions? No. You know Triple H likes his 5-match cards. Thank you very kindly, Ed. I know you were here at the beginning of the show. I just want to remind everyone and remind you, if you didn't hear, that because of a bit of a kidney issue that I've got right now, I'm not going to be doing the squats live. Just so everyone's aware. I do appreciate donations. Thank you very kindly for those. You are, of course, welcome to do so if you would like to, but please be aware the squat situation at the moment is on pause just while I recover. Aaron says, I see Eric Rowan turning on the Wyatt Sicks. We will have news on the Wyatt Sicks shortly. Fiend says, Tom, would you join Seth's faction? In a heartbeat. Daz says, big up Tom. When do you think Seth cashes in? Also liked and shared. Appreciate you for that, Daz. As regards Seth cashing in, I think there are some good options. I think Jey Uso not being the champion at current harms the situation, Though I do think Seth versus Gunther would be a very good feud and very much WrestleMania worthy. I do think it will be sooner rather than later that Seth cashes in. The other Mike, I actually haven't watched all of the latest season of Last of Us. I know what happens because I've played the games, and I know it's going to be controversial. Renee says, going to double taping in Pittsburgh on Monday, hoping nothing happens with all this Saudi business to mess up those shows. Joey says, do you know if Asuka versus Io is a match being pitched for SummerSlam? More on that later. Hector says, fun fact, CM Punk mentioned Zack Ryder and Dolph Ziggler while wearing a Cesaro shirt in an interview prior to Mania 29. I'd like to think that was part of Cena's pipe bomb promo. It absolutely was. Noob is asking about Asuka's return. I will be discussing that shortly. Stick around. Cal says, do you think we could see Cross and Sammy have a match soon? Yes, I believe that's very much the intention, and they pretty much announced it. I was pretty sure. Alex says, Tom, I respect you, but I hope Verse is the most expensive flop in EPL history, and bitter you got Frimpong, though. I respect that. That's football. I can't believe it. I genuinely can't. For a while, after Brendan Rodgers left and we had Jurgen Klopp, I was telling everyone that it was just CGI, and obviously we didn't have Jurgen Klopp. Feels like that. Cal says, Stone Cold versus the woman he drove into next WrestleMania. I like that. Calvin says, is there a chance we could see a double turn in the Sammy Carrion feud? Unlikely. Carrion ain't that over. Aaron says, is there any chance Cross gets re-signed? A number of people are trying to get him re-signed, including himself. Triple H is not a current one of them. Liam says, John Cena revealed that at the start of his farewell tour, he came up with the idea of 36 unique limited edition merch drops, one for each of the 36 cities on the tour. And that is pretty much what's happened. The man knows how to make money. No, Eric, I didn't, and I'm okay with that. Christopher says, I have Cody Rhodes winning against Jey Uso. Fiend says Triple H was also behind the 5 gimmick of Big E back in the day. I'm good, Carl. It's something that occurs. I have a poison left kidney. Joey says, what is the plan for Sami Zayn? Is he going to feud with Cross? At the moment, yep, that seems to be the plan. Sami Zayn trying to do Cross a favour, essentially. Appreciate that, guys. Appreciate that. Bailey says, does WWE have a contracted runtime for Night of Champions? Could they go over shorter show and thus get out of town earlier? They could. I don't think they're going to. If they're there, they're there. Liam says, Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu for the United States title is set for Night of Champions next week in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Hello, Rob and Dave. Good to see you. Aaron says, Randy looks odds-on favourite for King of the Ring. I mean, it would be, what, another chance against Cena or another chance against Gunther? Not there for it. And WWE fan 45673. Thank you for following. I appreciate you. Sean says, The Undertaker has confirmed the rumours that he's definitely interested in joining WWE's creative team. He's currently looking for ways to make it work with his busy schedule via WrestleStar, who I've never heard of. I have more on that. I appreciate that, Boomer. Joey says, is Solo versus Jacob going to be a one-off match, or will it be another match at SummerSlam? The family will have a long-term feud, so this is not going to go away quickly. Ken says, hey Tom, what do you think, or what do the higher-ups think of Alexa Bliss? Does WWE still see her as someone who will win world titles? Yes. John says, I'm happy Asuka got her old NXT theme back. Cal says, surely Cross signs his deal soon. There is a deal on the table, it's just not necessarily one that he wants to sign. Declan says, why is Becky not going for world titles instead of mid-card titles? Because she wants to go for mid-card titles to put over mid-card wrestlers. Alex Griffin, welcome. We will be getting into that very shortly, as soon as I've caught up. Cal says, I thought Triple H really likes Cross. Yeah, that doesn't mean he's going to go all out for the guy. Joey says, is Cross not being featured more since he hasn't signed a new deal yet? Yeah, pretty much. He hasn't signed a new deal, so WWE have largely let him fade into the background, but individuals such as AJ Styles and Sami Zayn, and in fact the New Day, are fighting his corner. Pardon me. Fighting his corner. Cal says, did you see Alexa say she can't wait to work at the Wyatts and that working with Wyndham was the most fun she's ever had in her life? Yep, she was directly asked a question about working with the Wyatts. She answered in what we'd all expect. Calvin says they really need to do something with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Declan says, I'd love to see Seth cash in on John Cena instead of Gunther. Sid says it's not nice hearing Liverpool do well in the transfer window when Man United are not doing so well in the transfer window or in life. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate you for that. A very generous donation. It's glad to see you back, Tom. Hope you're well soon. Hope the Wyatts are not infighting. There's a little bit of that, but we'll get to that very shortly. Thank you very kindly for your generosity, Chris. For those unaware who haven't caught it, I won't be doing the squats today, but please do remind me in future and I will make sure that you get your money's worth. Eric, that theory is incorrect. Robin Dave says, I do not want Cody to win, I want Randy to win. Liam says, under a month and a half away till Clash in Paris, Tom, it's going to be insane. Michael says, Body Slam reported AEW will be, introducing women's tag titles and intergenerational championships, whatever that means. They have some weird title names. What's the one that Okada has? Does he still have it? I don't know. Hector says, I know you'll probably talk about this, but it's so odd WWE just announced Bayley's return out of nowhere in a title match as well. Kind of ruins the surprises that we used to get. Liam says, Roxanne Perez was one of Jade Cargill's first trainers in the PC when she arrived at WWE. They'll wrestle on Raw for the first time. Declan says, do we see Becky with both the Intercontinental and United States Championships together? No. Cal says, Tom, I see a heist of the century happening. I think Cody beats Cena and Seth cashes in on Cody. That would be a lot of fun. Thank you, Liam. Appreciate that. Sean says, Alexa at Fanatics Fest. She was asked who she'd like to face at Evolution. She said Charlotte. Said a match with Charlotte at Survivor Series 2017 is her favourite match. Yeah, she does firmly believe that Charlotte gets the best out of her, and they are very close friends. Chris says, no need to discuss, just helping her brother out, and I appreciate you for that. Bailey says, what is Mercedes Money's next title going to be? Well, it looks like it might be the top one. Fiend believes that AEW has too many titles. Joey says, do you know which matches are being pitched for Evolution? I've got a bit on that. And Cal says, did you, Bryan Danielson, get physical the other day? That just a one-off thing, or could we get one more match? He is technically cleared to wrestle. He's just really banged up and he won't be cleared much longer. Ray thinks Sami Zayn will win the Royal Rumble. Thank you for that, Ray. We have 129 people watching, 42 likes. Please remember to hit that thumbs up button. Let's get to our next piece of news, which is as regards a few disagreements between members of the Wyatt Sicks, which has led to a certain amount of infighting. And this is, in fact, what caused their return ahead of what was originally scheduled. Bo Dallas has a vision, and it is a vision that he is trying to convince the creative team to give him and allow him to work with. However, when it comes to that vision, it is not necessarily popular with everybody in the WWE. There is those in the locker room who believe that Bo Dallas might be a little bit too wedded to his concept, and there are others who believe that the concept was Bray Wyatt and the WWE should respect Bray Wyatt by allowing Bo Dallas to tell his story. Those in the Wyatt Sicks who were unable to appear due to these issues were of the opinion that they should be allowed to wrestle independently without Bo Dallas if Bo Dallas was not available to work. Joe Gacy, for example, just wanted to wrestle. He just wanted to wrestle. And there are others in that team. I'm going to look at, for example, Nikki Cross, who was worried about potentially being forgotten and potentially putting herself in an awkward position if she couldn't appear on TV. The Wyatt Sicks did have these conversations between themselves. They had these conversations with the creative team, and the WWE decided it was time to bring them back. So eventually, the meet in the middle that we have seen, it is not the vision of Bo Dallas that we are seeing play out. It is also not technically the vision of the creative team that we're seeing play out, but it is closer to Triple H's vision than Bo Dallas's in order to get members of the Wyatt Sicks back on TV sooner. Thank you, Andrew, for those gifts, those roses. I appreciate you for that. And Aaron says, any reports on Ricky Saint's injury? Nothing that's come across my desk, no. Fiend says the women's tag title is the only title I'd get rid of in WWE, to be honest. Otherwise, it's good. Age says, as the righteous coming to WWE, they are behaving that way on YouTube. Nothing I've heard personally. As I say, I certainly don't hear everything. Cal says, I did see Bryan Danielson say the other month he doesn't want to wrestle because he's worried he could get paralyzed. And that is true. That's very true. However, he's also a wrestler. Joey says, does Bo Dallas not want to be involved with the tag titles? It wasn't his first choice. Cal says, I do think everything will be fine with the Wyatts. The fact they're getting a title shot makes me think they're fine. Rickon says, any new updates on AJ Styles contract negotiations? Your guess is as good as mine at this point. Typically with AJ Styles, they always announce it, so it seems that it hasn't happened yet. But there was quite a bit of injury time added on, so I don't believe his contract has actually formally expired yet. Not long, though. Joey says, do you think Roxanne will take Liv's place as tag champ? I do have a little on that still to come. Sean says, Julia's getting some hate for saying she doesn't care about the women's US title. She was scripted to say it. Yeah, people get hate for everything. It's ridiculous. Bailey says, I understand Nikki Cross's concern. With so few matches she's appeared in, there's a problem when Nick Khan inevitably returns to his cost-benefit analysis. Cal says, to be fair, from the whole story point of view, they speak about refilling the rivers of pain. Philosophical answer is gold, fixes the rivers of pain and grief, which fits in to their journal. Joey says, do you know how much time Shinsuke and The Miz have left on their deals? I don't see The Miz going anywhere. Shinsuke has a couple of months yet. Liam says they're finally giving CM Punk a singles main event match. It just so happens to be in Saudi. Oh, and it's going to happen during the middle of a war. Yeah, this was the easiest way that they could convince CM Punk to go to Saudi Arabia. They promised him the championship. Ash says, AJ Styles has said he wants to retire in WWE. Do you think he'll leave WWE? Everyone leaves eventually because everyone retires eventually. When it comes to AJ Styles, that is leveraging. Phoebe says, swear to God, some wrestling fans in this app are toxic as F or AF. And I agree. I absolutely agree. I am so glad to be no longer anywhere near the Twitter sphere because that is incredibly toxic. But I've learned that TikTok also has its own subcommittee of insanity. Liam says, it is crazy the depths that CM Punk will go to try and avoid going to Saudi Arabia. Thieves, what are you responding to? Nobody said anything like that. Are you just claiming to have been attacked? Okay, fair enough. Happened off this stream, but hey, you won't find that here. We're a very chill collective. Hector says, I just saw a good point, even though I don't agree with it. But back when WWE was running tribute to the troops in Iraq, it was during the Iraq War too, so I don't see them moving this. No, it's very much not in their makeup. Cal says, they've been seeing Bo's promos. He's so good, he's amazing. And Cal says, I think AJ will have a run in AEW. Thank you, Eric, for that, for giving me a heads up there. Ray says, why did John Cena mention wrestlers that don't work for WWE? You need to check out CM Punk's Pipe Bomb to understand the references. Fiend says, what do you think is next for Bron Breakker? Probably Gunter. Though right now, of course, he has other people to work with. Bear with me, I'm going to sneeze. Cal says, will Finn Balor ever win a match again? Yes, I do think he's going to be defeating Dominic Mysterio. Phoebe says, in the airspace, shut, not in Saudi Arabia, no. In Qatar, I think is where you're thinking. Anonymous says, I wonder what's keeping AJ from signing a new deal. Is it more money or maybe he just wants to leave and finish elsewhere? It's a good question. Very good question. Cal says, we're a chill community except when we have our crisp chat on the watch along. For those unaware, that was like 2.5 years ago and it's still considered the biggest night of our entire channel when we spoke about crisps during an Elimination Chamber livestream. I don't even know. Don't even know. Next up, Asuka's return. Asuka's return went off without a hitch and the WWE are very happy with the overall response. So I ain't doing that. I absolutely am not doing that. We are not in any circumstances messing around saying that you should send people to a war zone because no one cares about them. Goodbye. Anyway, Asuka's return went off without a hitch. WWE very happy with what they were able to get from her, and in fact very happy with the response to the match between Asuka and Alexa Bliss. Of course, Alexa Bliss was Asuka's first match on the main roster, and the two performed very well together. It's also a match that WWE consider to be amongst the best matches Alexa Bliss has ever had. WWE eager to put together an Asuka vs Io Sky program to show the completion and the removal of damage control and allow everybody to move on. Whether that happens at SummerSlam, I'm not sure. A big push, after all, is coming for Jade Cargill, but I do think that when we do get this match, it will be something that the WWE pushes hard. That said, after this, a tag team match between Asuka and Kairi Sane is still likely. Sean, please do correct me if I am wrong, but I believe Emma was Asuka's first pay-per-view match. Please do correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Yes, so we will still see a tag team between Asuka and Kairi Sane. However, when it comes to championships, Asuka and Io Sky has been heavily mooted by creative. Boomer says, I do like CM Punk trying to get out of Saudi. I would be doing the same. Calvin says, have you seen the recent episode of Dark Side of the Ring of Muhammad Hassan? I have not. Erin says, tuning in late, going back to the start soon, but I'm saying hi. Hi Erin, good to see you. Ray says, I think AJ Styles will return to TNA, hopefully be at Slammiversary in July. Michael says, 38 days until Dakota is free. Ray says, is Asuka a babyface or a heel? Neither. She's basically whatever you decide she is. Thank you, Ed, for your sterling work. Anonymous says, if AJ leaves, I think he should have his last final run in TNA. And Sean says, do you see Joe Hendry getting the TNA World title back? No, I do not. Next up, an update on Conan, who has stated that The Undertaker was involved in the creative and planning for Money in the Bank. He wasn't. He wasn't involved in creative. He offered a few opinions well before the fact, and that was to Triple H rather than the creative team. The Undertaker in the creative team is not something I'm invested in. I used to be a big Undertaker fan. When I thought that, at WrestleMania 33 he was retiring and the match was abysmal by design to show that his body was giving up on him, but he was still trying to do everything that he could, I thought that was genuinely great storytelling. I really did. I cried. It was the last real immortal of my childhood. And it's a ridiculous fact that he kept going after that. But this is a man who's never really been involved in creative, apart from, I want to be kind of a boxer now. It got weird. I can't see Triple H being that interested. His greatest storylines were accidental. Welcome, Dan. Good to see you. Evening to you too. Eric says, Asuka's main roster debut was against Emma at TLC 2017. Thank you, Eric, for clarifying that. Sean says, do you think Mariah May takes the title off JC Jane? I think there's a lot of options in NXT now. A lot of strong options, but it depends what she's been offered in order to convince her to sign. I had the news of her going to AEW way back when, and the news about her tryout being originally in 2020 alongside another wrestler at the time. But when it comes to WWE move, unfortunately, I have very little. Dan says, Dark Side of the Ring on Muhammad Hassan was good, so I had another check on that, albeit I have no idea how accurate it was. Always worth asking that question. Declan says, who do you see facing Becky at WrestleMania next year? I see her going for the World Women's Championship or WWE Women's Championship. I see Becky Lynch losing the Intercontinental Championship to Stephanie Vaquer at WrestleMania next year. That's what I personally think is going to be happening. Anonymous says, with WWE dropping new merch today for Cross, is that a good sign for his contract being renewed or nothing yet? It's a relatively good sign in that they're giving him opportunities to show that he's over with the fans. Now, we've had a lot of people in here saying he's incredibly over. He's not. He's popular, but he's not over to a degree of a Seth Rollins or an LA Knight, or I'd say he's over to about the level of a Lyra Valkyria. So that's largely WWE's fault, not giving him the opportunity to get over, but he does have a point to prove, and it's not an easy point to make. So hopefully, if you are a Cross fan, you'll buy his merch. Ray says, do you think WWE will sign Mike Santana? Don't have anything on that one, unfortunately. Fiend says, Tom, who do you see Seth fighting at SummerSlam? Seem to be building towards LA Knight at the moment, but it depends how long that plays out. Plans for Liv Morgan included an Evolution tag team match for Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez against the Bella Twins, though I can state that they were still in the process of convincing Brie Bella to join in for the match, and other options of WWE legends were being considered. This is why you saw reports of Trish Stratus. Now with Liv Morgan injured, the match has been abandoned, and the championships will likely pivot from Rodriguez and Morgan to Rodriguez and Perez. For Nikki Bella's position, they are likely to find a different match for her and include her because she has made herself available and she has signed a deal involving at least one match. As regards Liv Morgan's injury, the WWE are expecting it to seriously affect planning for the Judgment Day, but they're confident that Morgan will be ready for a major face push upon her eventual return. There was a lot going on in the next few months for Liv Morgan, which at this point in time now seems unlikely. There were plans for at least competition with the women's champion, and what I was being told was that there was a women's championship run in Liv Morgan's near future. So that is a crying shame. Liam says, would you rather Sami Zayn win a world title and LA Knight doesn't, or LA Knight win a world title and Sami doesn't? For me, Sami Zayn. I've never really clicked with LA Knight. WrestleFan says, do you see Trish wrestling at Evolution? Not as of yet, but I certainly think when it comes to Evolution, she does owe Alexa Bliss a match. Fiend says, Brie Bella said she hadn't received a call from WWE. It's not the information I've got. Ray says, are you liking Ron Killing's run so far? Put respect on his name. Got a bit beat up by Cena. And Amanda says, I think they should just get rid of the women's tag titles. There's not even that many women's teams. There could be if they started using the women that they have more. Declan says, what's next for Lyra after Becky and Bayley? I don't believe they've planned that far ahead. Noob says, I believe that Kairi Sane is going to be in the mid-card. As much as I want to see the Kabuki Warriors back in the women's tag title picture, I get the feeling the Dungeon Dolls will be tag champs. And Ray says, do you think Ron Killings will be a champion in 2025? Yes. The champion? No. The last thing I want to touch on is just really asking a question here of everyone that I feel really needs to be raised. Jonathan Coachman chatted some shit about Britt Baker that wasn't true. This is, of course, added to the considerable list of shit he's chatted that isn't true. And in fact, I've got to say, I'm yet to see him report anything that's been true. Has anyone so reliably batted a zero like this before? And please, God, Jonathan Coachman, say less. Just say less. Dex Meets World has joined on the TikTok side. Thank you very kindly for joining. Thank you for the heart. Thank you for joining the fan club. I appreciate you for that. Very generous. And I always like that. Thank you very kindly. We do have some incredibly generous people here who've been very, very supportive of everything we do. Thank you for the gifts as well and the roses. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who continually supports my work here, who supports the channel as well, and who essentially keeps the lights on at times in my little office here. I'm still developing the office, by the way. I know it's been nearly a year. Keep running out of money for the house, so I'm doing what I can. There's a lot more white walls than there were. There's 3 corners of white now, but I will be over the next few weeks finishing off the painting, then putting on lining paper, which I've only just discovered about. Lining paper, and then painting that Venetian red. At that point, I'll find out whether it actually works as a backdrop, because if it doesn't, we will be living with it. Because I won't be able to afford to change it. So, yay. Ooh. Ray says, is Jacob Fatu a babyface? I think he is. He's over with the fans. He is at this point in time, though. What I will say, Triple H doesn't care so much about the titles of babyface or heel. He just puts them out there and sees how people react. Liam, next wrestling receipt, I just need a little time to recover. I can't guarantee this Sunday, but I would expect it would be. That would make the most sense for me, and that's what I'm working towards at current. Juan says, Jonathan Coachman is just a clickbait Conan. Interesting. Anonymous says, it feels like WWE quickly gave up on the Ron Killings name. Everyone chants for Truth. He's still being referred to as Truth. Ron Killings wanted it. And then, they just stepped aside. Not going anywhere. Dex says, I love this channel. Glad I could catch you live. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you for coming in. 2 ad breaks in 44 minutes ain't so bad, Bailey. I appreciate you for sticking around. Joey says, I always see Ringside News reposting stuff Jonathan Coachman says. Ringside News don't care if things are true. They care if people will click on them. Calvin says, I feel like the Austin Theory chants are being ignored. Yes, they are. Hector says, Jonathan Coachman associates himself with Vince Russo. Him spewing lies isn't all that surprising to me. Declan says, I don't believe in Jonathan Coachman. He's a fraud. Ray says, do you think TKO will sell WWE? Eventually, one day, probably. The other Mike says, after the first 4 times he's gotten stuff wrong, he should have given up. Dan says, JC seems to be one of those people that view it as it doesn't matter what you bat if people keep paying you in some way for it. Yeah, true. Boomer says, I already felt bad about Liv's injury. She was going to get another title run. So sad. Hopefully when she gets back, she'll have another run with the title. Anonymous says, WWE has been teasing Waller and Theory breakup for almost 2 years now. It's getting old. Wonder when they pull the trigger. Finally. Sean says, I know we don't like him, but Russo believes Triple H should be fired for not having Stephanie Vaquer win the Fatal 4-Way last week. Anyone that reactive is fucking ridiculous. Dad says, who do you see Ospreay facing All In? Not sure, to be honest. I'm not following regularly enough at the moment to speculate. Calvin says, I wonder if anyone remembers when Truth had a tag match with Adam Pac-Man Jones in TNA. Anonymous says, what happened to Ray Phoenix? They're just waiting for the draft to switch him to Raw so he can team up with Penta. They never really intended to have him this quickly. So yeah, he's not been featured as regularly as they'd like. I'm a Villain. The news on Night of Champions was right at the beginning. Just rewind to it and you'll be able to find everything there. Ray says, I'm loving Bailey since she returned. That's the Bailey I want to see. And Calvin just thinks Triple H should definitely be fired. Right, we've been live for 47 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up here, get myself plenty to drink, and then curl into a fetal position. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. We will be back live on Friday, but we will not be live during a show in Saudi Arabia. So, as usual, all I'll say is, I've been Tom Colohue, you've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.